Hey guys, it's Nova Joe, and today I wanted to do a review of the Arcade 1-Up Final Fight cabinet. As most of you know and seen in my videos, I have had a Rampage cabinet since October, pretty much when they came out. And I have been wanting the Final Fight cabinet ever since it was announced, all the way back when the Wave 1 came out. So, thankfully the other day, and with permission from my wife, as long as I sell some of my stuff, I was able to get this Final Fight Arcade 1-Up cabinet. And I have to say, I am enjoying it immensely. Final Fight is a game, let me rephrase this, let me back up here. The Final Fight arcade game is one that is big on nostalgia for me, because when I was a kid, I used to go to Walmart with my grandmother, and she would usually give me a dollar, and back then in the late 80s, early 90s, you could play an arcade game for a quarter, especially at Walmart. So I'd take my dollar, go to the cashier, and have her break it into quarters, and I'd go out and play Final Fight. And I used to have such a sense of satisfaction if I could just beat the first level boss. So it was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of good memories. It didn't matter that I would blow through a dollar in about 5 minutes. It was just thinking about playing that game as well as other arcade games and getting to have a few minutes to play something like that, because at that time you couldn't get Final Fight on a home console. It hadn't come out yet, and it would be a few more years before it was released on the Super Nintendo, and then later on the Sega CD, which my brother had the Sega CD version, and honestly I don't know what happened to it. But anyway, the Final Fight cabinet here is so much fun, and my kids love it. You're going to eventually see a video of them playing, and they just have a great time playing this. And they don't understand. They've never, well, yeah, they have seen an arcade machine, but not like I used to. Well, enough of my rambling about the past. I know you're all here to find out about this machine and what I think about it, so I'm going to tell you, I really like it. I like it a lot. I'm very impressed with it. I know a lot of you out there don't like the arcade 1-Up machines. You don't believe that you're getting your money's worth. And you know, the truth of the matter is, it's an opinion, and your opinions are just as valid as another person's opinion, just as valid as mine. I personally feel I've got my money's worth, because I'm not just paying for 4 ROMs in a wooden box. I'm paying for an arcade cabinet that has artwork that takes me back to my childhood, that takes me back to a simpler time. I can walk here into my man cave, look over, and it makes me smile. The Rampage machine does the exact same thing. It makes me smile, because for a moment I can take a trip back to my childhood, and that's priceless, especially when you're dealing with the stressors of everyday life and you just need to escape for a minute. And let me tell you, this machine will let you escape. It has 4 great games in it. It has Final Fight, Ghosts and Goblins, 1944, and Strider. And every one of these games is a fun game that has lots of replayability, and none of them are throwaways. You have your beat 'em up, you have a shoot 'em up, you have an actually you get 2 action platformers. You have one that's futuristic, one that's historical. You've got one that's I guess you could say historical as well, since the Final Fight game is kind of like taking place in the 80s. And then you have Ghosts and Goblins, which has a haunted, ghostly theme. So you're getting numerous different themes, you're getting 3 different genres, and all 4 of these games are excellent in their own right. Now, going on to the quality. The machine has seen a couple improvements since Wave 1. One, very simple, they've added an extra screw to the back so that the back piece stays on better, because before you had 2 screws at the top, it would slide in, and I guess some people might have had some problems with them popping out, so they put an extra screw in the middle to hold it in. So there's that improvement. You don't have to worry about the back coming off. and they've now started including the game board cover, I should say, the plastic, clear plastic cover that protects the art. Because in Wave 1, for those of you who don't know, your hand grease, your oils from your hand would wear out the artwork. And thankfully, Arcade 1UP helped us all out and gave us free covers for our other machines. And I know some people have had a hard time dealing with Arcade 1UP on the phone, but I never did. I would call them, I would get a hold of them, they'd send them out. Actually, our messages got crossed at one point, and I ended up getting 3 covers. So I've got 3 plastic game board covers for my Rampage machine. So there's that. So I've got extras. But the new Wave 2 machines, they all come with the cover. So you got the cover right off the bat, you've got the extra screw in the back to hold it in place, and other than that, the machines are still the same. The artwork is outstanding on them. Now, I have a scratch on this side over here. It's not horrible, but it is noticeable, but I can live with that. These things are huge, they're in cardboard boxes, and it's going to be pretty much near impossible to have everything perfect. And I know some people want perfection. My other machine wasn't perfect either, it had a little place on it too, but you know, it's a piece of history, a piece of nostalgia, a piece of fun. And so I really enjoy my Arcade 1UP machine. To me, it was worth the $300. Now, if you go out there and you look a little bit, you'll notice that Walmart in some areas is selling them for $150 or $200. And I think it might have been a mess up because they actually were only marking down Wave 1 units, not all the Wave 1s, but some of them to like the $150, $200 range. And these Wave 2 accidentally got slipped in out there, but there's a lot of Walmarts, it seems, that have done that. So if you're interested, look around, you might be able to find it for $100 to $150 cheaper than what I paid for it. So anyway, let's take a look at the games. The first game on the list is Final Fight. This is the Japanese version. None of it's been edited. It has the blood, and Poison's a little bit more scantily clad. Or I should say the female characters are a little bit more scantily clad, not just Poison. But this is the Japanese version, so it is uncut, it's unedited, and it plays just like the arcade did. The next game on the list is Ghosts and Goblins. This is the arcade version of it. And as you can see here, my daughter is running around as Arthur, where you basically can take 2 hits and then you're dead. So, and this does have the 2-player version, meaning that when she does die, the second player does take over, and then it just goes back and forth until all the lives are gone. But this is a fun classic game that I can clearly remember playing at an old converted garage when I was a kid. There was a garage in town that had turned into an arcade, and I can remember getting my grandmother to give me some quarters and her allowing me to go to the arcade there and play this game for about 15 seconds because that's how long it took me to die. So, alright guys, that is the second game on the list, Ghosts and Goblins. The third game on the list is 1944 The Loop Master. This game has never been released anywhere outside of the arcade. It's not on any compilation or any console anywhere, so it is really nice to have a chance to have this game at home. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would like to have it on the console or as a downloadable title on something, but since we can't have that, we can't have it on here, and it is a really fun shoot 'em up. It does have 2-player. You can both jump in at the exact same time and just have a blast going through the multiple stages. It's a really fun game. The fourth and final game on the cabinet is Strider, and this is also a 2-player game just like Ghosts and Goblins, where when the first player dies, the second player jumps in, and it's a very simple jump and slash game, and it's one that my children are having a bit of fun playing right now. So, and that's it guys, that is the 4 games that are on the Final Fight cabinet. They are a lot of fun. There's a lot of replay value to these games. Now there's one more improvement I want to talk about, and to me it's a big improvement, and that is the fact that Arcade 1UP has finally got these games set up where they will save your score. No longer do you have to worry about losing. Well, there was no worry to it. You couldn't worry about anything because the old machines didn't save your score. Well, at least the Rampage machine didn't. I'm not sure about the other ones, but I'm assuming that since most of them were using the same hardware and software, that they probably didn't save your score. And I can tell you the Rampage machine does not. So when I was able to save my score on Ghosts and Goblins as well as on Final Fight in 1944, I was really pleased, because those of you who grew up in the 80s and 90s, you know that a big part of bragging rights was having your name on the leaderboard of these arcade machines. And so, like, if you ever frequented an arcade, you would go to the game that you were really good at, and you would check to see if your score had been bested, and if it hadn't, you had that to kind of brag about. So it was nice to see that Arcade 1UP got that fixed on here. And I've noticed that I haven't paid much attention to, actually, yeah, I just noticed, I was going to say, I hadn't paid any attention to Strider to see if it kept your score, but it does. And it just showed my name right there at the top. So all 4 games on here will retain your score even after you flip it off. That is a great addition. It's something that seems pretty common sense, but for whatever reason, it wasn't included with Wave 1, or at least not on the Rampage machine. So, alright guys, that is my overview of the Final Fight Arcade 1UP cabinet. I can't say if it's for you, but I can definitely say it's for me. And if you grew up in the 80s and 90s and you've been looking for an arcade machine in your home, I highly recommend this. If you can afford it, and I know $300 is a lot of money, you can go buy a Switch with it, but this does more for me in regards to memories and nostalgia than the Switch does, because it's an arcade machine of Final Fight. It's an arcade machine of Rampage. My memory of Rampage is at the flea market, seeing this machine at the flea market when I was a kid, and just loving the artwork and watching George and Lizzie and Ralph just destroy the buildings, and just loved it. Just takes me back. So for me, $300 is a small price to pay for excellent games with a pretty heavy dose of nostalgia. But I can't speak for everyone. I can only speak for myself. So I hope you've enjoyed the overview of the Arcade 1UP Final Fight cabinet. It has been a real joy for me, and my son is constantly asking me if he can play Final Fight. So even the little ones will enjoy playing it. So, alright guys, as always, take care, God bless, and keep on gaming. I'll see you soon.